let's get to our 3 games that we're going to focus on. And the first one is going to be the Edmonton Oilers at the Nashville Predators. 8 o'clock Eastern time is the start. And the Oilers continue to occupy that second spot in the Pacific Division, and it doesn't look like they're going to be threatened anytime soon. You have the injury-plagued Los Angeles Kings right behind them. Doesn't look like they're going to play well enough to catch them. In fact, Edmonton owns a 2 games in hand advantage. So I think Edmonton is pretty secure. The only thing that might be the problem with that is when Edmonton plays Vegas. I mean, Vegas is coming on strong. So Vegas might overtake Los Angeles, and then they may even think about overtaking Edmonton. But first things first, we'll get to this game. Nashville is the first wild card in the West. They're barely hanging on by a point. They lead Dallas by that point, and 4 points over Vegas with 9 to play. So another big game in the NHL, as is the case with most games this time of year. Let's take a look at the number. Nashville minus $1.20. That number's been bet up from minus $1.10. 6 over minus 20. Also bet up from 6 over minus 15. So we see Nashville money come in, and we're seeing over money come in early on. Keep in mind as well, if you're a guy that likes to go against the public, early movement indicates sharp betting. So if you're more of about going against the public, wait a few hours and then see where the money moves, maybe after lunchtime, because after lunchtime is when you get the public money coming in if you're a contrarian better. Goaltending tonight, Mike Smith will get the start against UC Saros. Those are the listed goaltenders. Make sure, of course, to check those before you make your wagers tonight. And for Edmonton, they're coming off a thorough beatdown by the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota took it to them 5-1 in a game that Edmonton really needed. It was their second loss following that 6-game win streak, which tells me we may be seeing a team that's a little bit satisfied where they are in the standings. And it's not so much that they lose to Minnesota, which plenty of people do, especially at XL Energy Center. It's the way in which they're losing, and it's a disinterested brand of hockey over the last 2 games. I think they're feeling pretty secure where they are in the playoffs, and they should at this point. I don't think they feel threatened by the Kings. It's easy to see how they don't come with their best effort against the Wild, especially dropping a shootout loss against Colorado the night before. I just think that they're a little bit in that lull, and we've seen Edmonton do this during the year. We saw a big chunk of their season where they just were an angry bunch. I mean, you remember those press conferences where they were going back and forth with the beat writers because they just were not finding the back of the net. They were not playing well, and this kind of has the feel of that at probably the wrong time for Edmonton. The difference is back then they were just snake bitten. Right now, I think they're, again, pretty comfortable where they are. Keep in mind also, before these last 2 losses, they also struggled against the Kings. They also struggled against San Jose. San Jose was a game that they probably, should have lost, and they scored late in the third period to tie it up, and then they, eventually won the game. But even though it says a 2-game losing streak, I don't think they've played well against they haven't played well since the game against Anaheim, and that was 11 days ago. And you could also say it's been a month or so since the Oilers have played well against one of the upper echelon teams in the league. And, for me, when you're in this type of game, which is definitely against one of the upper echelon teams in the league, look a little bit deeper than just recent form. Recent form will just tell you it's a 2-game streak. I don't think Edmonton's played very well for a while. They've won a lot of 1-goal games that could have went either way. So keep that in mind tonight. I also don't like to hear when Jay Woodcroft says things like he's surprised that the team didn't respond after that Colorado win. That's telling me this team it's in a little bit of a lull. So I'm not going to beat that anymore, but those are all examples as to why I think Edmonton is not on top of their game right now. Edmonton has beaten the Predators in 5 straight games, in 5 straight meetings, but has not fared well in Nashville. In fact, they've lost 7 of 9 games in Nashville. And look, guys, sometimes things are not meant to be difficult. We're not supposed to, you don't need to go 5 layers to handicap these things. Nashville at home has been absolute money. They're 39-13 as a home favorite at home over the last 52 games, 36-16 overall at home. As long as we're getting a good number, as long as we're not being asked to lay $2 at home or $1.70 at home, Nashville is almost always going to be an automatic play for me. I think they're catching Edmonton at the right time. So tonight's official selection on the game, we're going to go Nashville minus $1.20, a good number with a great team at home. So that's how we're going to tackle that game tonight.